Now, WCW might have been pioneers when it came to the pay-per-view format, but that doesn't necessarily mean they always got it right. The company put on some utterly awful shows over the years with some truly bizarre matches in the final spot, the best of which are detailed right here. And if you can believe it, the year 2000 only appears twice. Who'd have thunk it, eh? So I'm Gareth, this is What Culture Wrestling, and here are the 10 weirdest WCW pay-per-view main events ever. Number 10, Hollywood Hulk Hogan vs. Roddy Piper, Starrcade 1996. During the 1980s, you could not have asked for a better main event match than Hulk Hogan vs. Roddy Piper. This was the feud that had closed out the very first WrestleMania and had helped turn WWE into the biggest promotion in America. However, by the time 1996 rolled around, well, a lot had changed. Hogan and Piper closed out Starrcade 96 when they were both in their mid-40s, which meant something very different back then than it does today. But that's not really why this match is so odd. After years of failing to defeat the Hulkster as a heel, gallant babyface Piper made the NWO leader pass out in a sleeper hold, winning him the match and the WCW title. At least that's what everyone thought at the time. Despite Hogan being the champion and this being the main event of the biggest show of the year, Piper apparently forgot to make this match for the belt, rendering his victory ultimately useless. What a waste of time. Hollywood Hulk would hold on to the gold until August the following year, and Piper would never once get his mitts on the top prize. Boo! Number 9, Goldberg vs. Scott Hall, sold out 1999. At Starrcade 1998, Kevin Nash defeated Goldberg to win the WCW title and end Bill's undefeated streak in one of the most controversial booking decisions in wrestling history. And oh boy, there have been a lot of those. Nash got a huge assist in this match from his buddy Scott Hall, who used a cattle prod to weaken Goldberg so Big Sexy could hit him with a powerbomb. Only in WCW, eh? This all led to the main event of the next pay-per-view, sold out in 1999, which saw Hall and Goldberg go one-on-one in a stun gun ladder match. Just one question, what the hell is a stun gun ladder match? The objective of this bizarre bout was to retrieve the titular weapon, which was hanging above the ring, and then use it on your opponent. Yep, wrestling is a bit weird, isn't it? Having these two fight over a stun gun somewhat lessened the severity of their feud, which probably did deserve a main event match. Goldberg won, by the way, avenging his loss in one of the strangest ways possible. Hooray? And while we're talking about strange main event matches, what do you think is the strangest main event that you've ever seen? It may be included in this list already, but if it's not, and even if it's outside of WCW, just throw it in the comments and we will all look at it and go, yep, that is weird. Number 8, Goldberg vs. Chronic, Halloween Havoc 2000. The idea of one wrestler fighting two or more opponents is a weird one at the best of times, but the story behind this handicap match makes it even more odd. Goldberg was booked to face the tag team of Chronic, Brian Clark and Brian Adams, at Halloween Havoc 2000, in a match where, if he lost, he would be kicked out of WCW for good. The match was supposed to take place earlier in the night, but after the former Atlanta Falcon was laid out in a mysterious attack, it was pushed back to give him more time to heal up. Wow, they must have had something seriously special planned to go to all this trouble, right? Well, spoiler alert, they did not. Instead, Goldberg came out and handily defeated both men in a match that lasted under 4 minutes, and that was it. This might have been fine if it hadn't been the focal point of the show, but the fact that it displaced Booker T versus Scott Steiner for the world title from the main event made this ridiculous decision even harder to swallow. Number 7, Hulk Hogan versus The Butcher, Starrcade 1994. Everybody's relied on a favor from a friend at some point in their lives, but few people have ever mooched off someone so successfully for so long as Ed Leslie. The man best known as Brutus the Barber Beefcake made the most of his real-life friendship with Hulk Hogan during the height of his career. Fun fact, a quiz about him actually led to me being shaved bald too. Go and find it on YouTube, it's still there. But back to him and Hogan. This favoritism was on full display at Starrcade 1994, which ended with Hogan defending the WCW Championship against The Butcher, aka one of Beefer's 6,000 career gimmicks. The Butcher had turned on Hogan earlier in the year, aligning with the Three Faces of Fear in an effort to take his bestie's title. And unfortunately for everyone watching, this meant sitting through 12 minutes of bland, uninspired wrestling from a man who had absolutely no business headlining WCW's version of WrestleMania. Mercifully, this was the one and only time Leslie was ever put in this sort of position by a major company. Even WWE at the height of Hulkamania knew that this was a bad idea. But WCW clearly did not have the same level of clarity when it came to standing up against their biggest star, brother. Number 6, Sting versus the Black Scorpion, Starrcade 1990. During Sting's first NWA World Heavyweight Championship reign back in 1990, he needed a credible heel challenger that was not Ric Flair. Sadly, there weren't many of those around, so head booker Ole Anderson came up with an idea. Anderson introduced the Black Scorpion, a masked man from Sting's past who tormented him for months. This led to a title match between the two at Starrcade, where if the Scorpion lost, he would unveil his true identity, the drama. The Stinger beat the different kind of Stinger with a diving crossbody, and then after a struggle pulled off his mask to reveal Ric Flair. What? As it turns out, Anderson had no idea who he wanted the Scorpion to be when he started running the gimmick. After a number of options fell through, Flair was begged to return to the main event scene, which he did so under the proviso that he would get to beat Sting later down the line. This was a complete and utter booking mess that led to one of the most disappointing unmaskings in wrestling history. So yeah, not exactly the way you want to end your flagship pay-per-view. Thank you for stopping by to watch this What Culture Wrestling video today, you lovely person. If you're enjoying yourself, then hit that subscribe button down below and you'll get more enjoyment out of more What Culture videos that will land on your screen. That's how it works. Number 5, Jeff Jarrett versus Diamond Dallas Page versus David Arquette, Slamboree 2000. At least when David Arquette won the WCW World Heavyweight Championship, the company had the decency to do it on TV and not on pay-per-view. The Scream actor did get to headline a major show, however, as he technically defended the gold against Jeff Jarrett and Diamond Dallas Page at the 2000 edition of Slamboree. This was a triple cage match inspired by the multi-Academy Award-winning movie Ready to Rumble. I may have made the first part up. And each part of the cage contained a new variety of weapon. The third and final stage was the Guitar Room, Jarrett's signature weapon, of course. But it was Arquette who used one to turn on his friend DDP and hand Double J the belt, his belt, that he just won. Okay then. Things got even crazier when after the bell, Kanyon ran down to help Page, only to get intercepted by Mike Awesome. The former ECW man lobbed Kanyon off the top of the cage to send him plummeting down to earth, which would have been a cool spot had this show not taken place almost 1 year to the day and in the same building as Owen Hart's tragic death from a similar stunt gone wrong. Oh boy. Number 4, Hulk Hogan and Dennis Rodman versus Lex Luger and the Giant, Bash at the Beach 1997. Some wrestlers worked their butts off for decades without ever coming close to a pay-per-view main event for a major company. Dennis Rodman got to do it twice just by being pals with Hulk Hogan though. The legendary NBA player first appeared on WCW pay-per-view at Bash at the Beach 1997 as an honorary member of the NWO. Alongside the Hulkster, he took part in a tag team match against Lex Luger and the Giant. Now you might understandably expect a match like this to only go a little while, just to let Rodman look good and give the fans something to talk about. But no, this dragged on for 22 entire minutes. To make things even stranger, if that was even possible, Rodzilla wasn't even the one who took the fall here. Instead, Luger beats Hogan by submission to end the match in a huge feel-good moment that eventually led to the Total Package winning the WCW title on Nitro. It turns out that Rodman not only main evented a WCW show, but he also played a small part in one of Nitro's biggest ever moments. And oh, he was not done there, folks. 1 year on from his first Bash at the Beach main event, Rodman stepped back into the ring to close the show once again. Only this time, he was not the only basketball star involved. To counter Madonna's ex-boyfriend, Diamond Dallas Page recruited another top player, Karl Malone, to be his partner for this tag match against Rodzilla and Hogan. As luck would have it, Malone's Utah Jazz and Rodman's Chicago Bulls had just faced each other in the NBA Finals, making this a huge coup for WCW at the time. Once again, the company could have put on a 10 or so minute match to give the fans what they wanted and not let the non-wrestlers embarrass themselves. Instead, though, they booked this match to go even longer than the one from the year before, because WCW. Viewers didn't even get the satisfaction of watching Hogan submit this year, as the Disciple, yet another of Ed Leslie's gimmicks, interfered to allow his best buddy to pin DDP for the win. This was an utterly horrible match that no amount of publicity could have justified. It was just a massive open goal that WCW put way over the crossbar in the end. Number 2, the Mega Powers versus the Alliance to end Hulkamania, uncensored 1996. In a desperate attempt to get him over as a babyface in 1996, WCW puts Hogan back together with his old Mega Powers partner Randy Savage, and pitted the two against a bunch of people who had all beefed with the Hulkster over the years. Ric Flair and Arn Anderson were there from the Four Horsemen, whilst Hogan's recent scuffles with the Dungeon of Doom were represented by Meng, the Barbarian, Kevin Sullivan, and Lex Luger. Zeus, the villain from Hogan's 1989 movie No Holds Barred was given the new name Z Gangster, and Robert Jeep Swanson was put under a mask as the ultimate solution. That's a lot of people right there. Hogan and Savage fought all 8 of their foes in a doomsday cage match, where they had to work their way down from the top of the structure to the floor. This was some of the most cartoonish stuff that WCW ever did. The babyfaces were hitting people with frying pans at one point. Look at them go. This was an absolutely mad match, especially when you realize that Hogan forming the NWO was just 3 months away at this point. What a weird world. Number 1, Diamond Dallas Page and Jay Leno versus Hollywood Hogan and Eric Bischoff. Road Wild 1998. Now, Rodman and Malone may not have been wrestlers, but at least they're athletes. Someone who is very much not an athlete, though, is chat show legend Jay Leno. But that did not stop him from main eventing WCW's Road Wild pay-per-view in 1998. The comedian became involved with wrestling after Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff invaded The Tonight Show, challenging him to a match at the upcoming show. Leno found an ally in Diamond Dallas Page, who always seemed to get stuck babysitting celebrities, and it was on. Instead of putting Goldberg in the main event, who had beaten Hogan for the WCW title just 2 months earlier, WCW booked the NWO guys against Page and Leno for the final match. This sideshow battle came to an end when Kevin Eubanks, Leno's bandleader on his show, hit Bischoff with a diamond cutter, allowing his boss to pin Eazy-E, with his shoulders about 6 inches off the mat. Oh, Jay, what do you like? A completely insane idea that resulted in rock-bottom buy rates for the company. Jay Leno's involvement in Road Wild 1998 has gone down as one of the most infamous decisions WCW ever made, and that is saying something. Can't get enough of WCW? Well then go and check out our worst WCW moments ever video too. It's a good one.